Hi, I'm Jan Riley, and I'm here today with Melissa Galt, and we're celebrating World Love Week. Now, Melissa, in case you didn't know, she has been recognized by Forbes as one of the top 20 women of influence for entrepreneurs to follow on Twitter. Melissa Galt also knows marketing and branding, both online and off. Over the last decade, she has worked with hundreds of coaches, consultants, solopreneurs, and home-based CEOs like you to build a business that delivers clients you love, the lifestyle you dream of, and the time to enjoy it all. And let's face it, that's really critical. Her own 25-year entrepreneurial odyssey includes founding and running a daycare, being a purchasing agent in distinctive hotels throughout the Southeast, owning her own successful interior design firm, and today, speaking, coaching, and consulting globally on marketing, branding, and sales strategies for business owners like you who are ready to fall back in love with your business, your clients, and your bottom line. Melissa, welcome. I am thrilled to be here with you.
Thanks, Jan. It's really a privilege.
And, having met you in person, the thing I was most struck, because I was in a room in a networking event, and there was obvious buzz around you. Okay, which, is, once I met you in person, I knew exactly why, because you're magnetic that way. But the thing I was so struck when I actually met you in person is that, one, you did have this real energy about you. You just have this energy and drive. And you looked straight in my eyes and started talking directly to me in a room full of people who were all vying for your attention. And that said something real clear to me. It's like, no wonder she's successful. And no wonder she really touches people, and because you were right there with me, even for that brief moment. And if you've ever been to many networking events, that doesn't happen that often. And so that really impressed me and really made me understand why so many people were magnetically drawn to you. So you rock in that way.
Thank you.
I just really wanted to tell you that. So when were you first in love with your business?
Well, there's a bit of a backstory on that one. I didn't start out loving my business at all because I started out on the wrong path. Now, when I say it was the wrong path, it was simply not the path for me. Back when it became time to go to college, I was in a boarding school and I really didn't want to go to college. I thought that college was just a big old waste of time and party time, and I wasn't a party girl. I was just one of these really square, super straight,
Yeah.
played by the rules, all that good stuff. I've since changed a wee bit, but I really didn't have a plan together, and the deal I made with my mother was that I would need to get a full-time job. So I went and I was selling shoes. 2 weeks after I'd started, I got home in the afternoon and I went to mother and I said, I want to go to college. I didn't really like selling shoes. But she said, that's lovely, dear. You'll have to work the rest of the year. And I had 9 more months in front of me. So I had applied and gotten into the best school in the country for costume design. And the sad truth of it was, I didn't have the guts. I didn't have the confidence to pursue my own dream at that stage. I had gone through all the hoops of application, but what I felt had tipped them was a letter from my godmother. She happened to be Edith Head, won 8 Oscars for costume design in Hollywood, still holds the record today. And I thought that it was Aunt Edie's letter and not my own potential and talent that had got me in, and that wasn't comfortable for me. So I gave up on my big dream, and I was floundering, and I'm like, what am I going to do? And I'm applying to University of California, Santa Barbara, and University of Colorado, Denver. And mother said, Cornell. And I said, I won't get in. I don't have that kind of GPA. And lo and behold, mother was very persistent, and you generally didn't argue with her. It just wasn't a good idea. Right. So I thought, fine, I'll shut her up. I'll apply, and I won't get in. Problem solved.
Yeah.
And I applied, and I got in. So I embarked on her dream for me. She'd never been to college. And it was a good dream. I got a degree in hospitality management, awesome business background, jumped out into the field, spent 5 years in the field. And while I was in the field, I was moving every 8 months, cities, states, and companies. I was kind of the turnaround artist for purchasing departments. I was the one who went in and the department was in chaos and clutter. I cleaned all that up. I put in the structure. I put in the systems. I did some retraining. I did some rehiring. I rearranged the storerooms. There's an important thing to note there because that was the precursor to my next career path. And then I was bored out of my tree with day-to-day operations and ready to leave.
Right.
Now, at that 5-year mark, though, I had a big aha moment because Mom had died really suddenly just a year after my college graduation. And I didn't really take a time out to grieve. I just sort of used work to distract me from that process. And I did go on a really bad shopping spree. I started filling the hole in my heart with a whole lot of stuff, which is not very effective. And it just sank me in a whole heap of debt is what it did. But at that 5-year mark, I had that aha moment. Life is short, perishable, and unpredictable. And if you're not doing something that you love every day, you are missing your moments. And I was missing my moments big time. So I quit not only my job, but my career. And I went back to school to pick up a second degree in interior design. And I picked up full-time work because I didn't have the luxury of not working. So I was working full-time and going to school full-time, and I was on fire. I was absolutely lit up from the inside, from the tips of my toes to the top of my head. It was unbelievable. For every one project they assigned me in school, I turned in 4. My classmates hated me because I would make them vote on which one to turn in because my instructors wouldn't grade more than 1. And I was completely on fire. It was the coolest feeling. I was pulling all-nighters because I could, not because I had to. And I jumped feet first. Now, I started to slow down on my moves. So the good news is instead of moving every 8 months, I was still getting bored a little too easily. I was at 18 months. The third 18-month deadline hit, head-to-head with my manager over vacation pay. She said I didn't have it. I said I did. I walked out. Now, I was $70,000 in debt at that point, completely upside down. I did not have a job. Clearly, I'd walked out on mine. I had to scramble to pick up a nights and weekends catering kitchen supervision, $10 an hour, running the hot, sweaty dish machine at the end of the night. Ooh, big excitement there. Lots of glamour. And I went to evening at Emory and I said, hey, I'd like to teach busy professionals about decorating. And they said, we'd love to have you do that. And it led to a 10-year stint, which turned into some of the best marketing I could possibly have done. Whenever you have an opportunity to teach your ideal clients in any capacity, speaking, a networking event, at a continuing ed program, do it. Because the beautiful part for me was over the course of 6 weeks, which most of my classes were, they got to know me, like me, trust me. And they got to decide, gee, do I like Melissa? Do I want to work with her? Or, oh, no, I've got enough. I can go do it on my own. I'm a DIYer. Or, no, her style's really not mine, and I'm going to find somebody else. Totally cool. But it really made a huge difference. And the cool part was, for about the first 5 years, actually the first couple of years, I actually lived on a big chunk of that money. And I had a very unusual agreement structured with Emory that they no longer do because I knew my draw factor. I wound up teaching 3 to 4 classes every single quarter.
Wow.
So it consumed my life for a good 10 years. I did start taking off summers after about the 3rd or 4th year, but really amazing marketing. And it took me 3 months to get my first client, but I never considered that I'd fail. It just didn't enter my framework because I was so excited about what I was doing. I was 15-hour days, 6 days a week, even before I was working with clients, because I just was so charged up. I couldn't wait to get up in the morning. I didn't want to go to sleep at night. It was like, why am I wasting my time on sleep? And it's that electrifying place, and it happens in the beginning of almost every business.
Yeah, it really does.
you're just super excited. I had the business background, so I had a really good idea of how to structure everything. That was awesome. I got my hands on every piece of marketing I could, and so grew that way, kept what worked, scratched what didn't. I didn't have any mentors, and this was pre-coach days. We didn't have coaches back then, except the Olympics did.
Right.
And so I actually did a lot of things very differently, and they turned out to really work. So the 5-year mark, I found out that my results were about 5 to 6 times normal for my industry, and I had colleagues starting to ask me to coach them. So I started doing that in tandem with the teaching at Emory, and then in tandem with my full-time practice. So that was just, man, when you start out, you are on fire. You're lit up from the core. And the hardest thing about that is usually between that 3 and 5 year mark is when it starts to wane. And that's when you have to refresh, reboot, realign, reinvent.
Mm-hmm. And often when you start out, you don't really know what successful results are. You had a background in business.
Yeah.
You had been working, so you had an idea
Yeah.
of, okay, this is working, this isn't, or I know that I should hang in here with this because it may not look like it's working, but I know it's the right course.
Yeah.
And so, I can see that was really beneficial. It's interesting. I know several people from the hospitality industry, and all of them are really good in their businesses the next 1 or 2 or 3, because it has that combination of people and business.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be good at both to really make it in that industry. And I have often thought that would be a great precursor for almost anybody in business.
I think you're right about that.
Mm-hmm. To get into hospitality, because the people part is so important. If you like people, you're going to catch on, but the business is also, built in there. So what does it mean to really, World Love Week is about combining love and business. And what is the best way to really love your clients? Because a lot of people think marketing is about throwing stuff at your clients. And more people that I'm talking to are telling me that it's about really connecting with your clients. So
it is about connecting with your clients. And I think one of the key pieces to that is you've got to be connected to yourself first. And that's something that it's interesting. I've gone through stages on this. I was very much so in my design career path. There was absolutely no question. I was completely connected to myself, completely connected to my clients. It was a period after that I went through a space where I wasn't and had to find my way back. And the connection piece is about being vulnerable. And that's hard and it's scary as all get out, especially if you go through a number of years where you don't allow that. So you put yourself in a place of being very guarded, but you're not even aware of it, and you're not aware of how it's impacting those around you. And what it really does is it walls you off.
Yeah.
And it's been a real interesting journey, really, my mother would impress upon me. Little voice correcting my English on my shoulder all the time. To come back to that place and to not be afraid to make mistakes in front of my community, not be afraid to make a mistake in front of a client and just own it instead of making an excuse for it and covering it up like we're prone to doing.
Right.
I never let them see the disasters without having a solution in place. And there's certainly not a lot of them, but even those little glitches, you just kind of want to go right past it. And sometimes you're better off saying, here's what happened, here's how I've taken care of it. And they go, oh, wow, thank you. I really appreciate that. In the case of coaching, it's about saying to your client, I really get where you are. I've been there, and here's what it looked like for me. And you're going to get through this. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be scary. But I'm holding the space on the other side of that for you, and I'm waiting for you outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And that's really what has to happen. So there's a part of it that there's kind of 3 elements that play a part in this. One of them is visibility, but visibility is beyond just being seen. My mom had a fabulous expression, see into life, don't just look at it. And this is about seeing into your business and your brand, not just looking at it. It's not just your website or how you are heard on a podcast or maybe how you're read on a blog. It's really and truly, are you infused in your business? When somebody looks at you versus 10 other providers, and let's face facts, we all have a lot of competition.
Yeah.
Does your heart jump out at them? Do they feel that magnetic draw, that magnetic pull? And it's not just, oh yeah, there's somebody I could work with.
Yeah.
Because that makes all the difference in the world. And not everybody's going to, and you don't want everybody to. You only want your ideal clients to feel that. You know, and then there's the credibility piece,
right?
Which is not just about them trusting you, it's about you trusting you. And so often in business, we get to a place where we're getting all this input from all of these coaches, from all of these gurus, from all of these experts. And I'm, not immune to that. And so we start distrusting ourselves. And the reality is you have to come to a place where you trust yourself as a business owner. Right. And you trust that even when you make mistakes, you're going to recover.
Yeah.
Because you are. So, and then the third piece is profitability. And profitability is not what you think. It's not just about the money.
Right.
It's not inherently hard. I have a wonderful friend of mine who says this. He goes, it's not hard to make money. And he's actually right. He's absolutely right. It's not. What's hard is to create an abundant life or to create a prosperous life when you're just chasing the dollars.
Yeah.
So you got to have the balance in there, and it's got to be about that place where you're building your business to deliver the life of your dreams, the time for the relationships you want, the health that you deserve, and the impact.
And it's really interesting because I work with Gina Gaudio-Graves and Jack Humphrey at Directions University. And people come to their hug seats and they always start out with, how do I make more money? And the first question, Gina, always is like, what do you want your life to be like?
Yeah.
And they won't let up at all. They'll just keep repeating the same question.
Yeah.
Jack and I were laughing about this the other day because he said everybody gets hung up on that piece. But what good does it do you to make all this money if you're not getting the life you wanted to begin with?
Exactly.
And I have found that, ironically, happiness really has to do with how we experience our life. And sometimes there's all kinds of things that may or may not be out of our control, but how we experience it has so much to do with what we tell ourselves about our role in it. And I've really noticed that many, many people that I've interviewed and talked to are always talking about this being really focused on what it is you're trying to get out of business and out of life. Because when you're centered in that place, you truly have something to give and offer. But when you're focused on just either the bottom line or the numbers or the task list or whatever, it's so easy to get way over to the side, and you may get your goal, but it doesn't hit that happiness mark.
Yeah.
And, I find a lot of people in business, they start from a heart-centered place. I have this idea to change the world. I have something I want to share and give. And then they jump into the business space, and granted, that can be really overwhelming. Yet, more and more, I'm hearing from big business and small, the more centered you stay on who you are, what you have to offer, what is that world-changing place that you came from. When you can stay there and come out of that place, I loved your mom saying, look into the world, look into the experience. Then the success starts to match up much sooner. And the other thing, and then I heard you really describe this in a great way, you'll notice it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I find a lot of people don't know they're successful because their measure for success is over here.
Yeah.
and they may be creating a great lifestyle, for the most part. Nothing's perfect. So I love that description of really understanding that you are the center of it. Because if you don't have that, where's it coming from?
Exactly. It's got to come from the core.
Yeah, exactly. So how can you love your business more?
Well, there's some simple ways to do that. One of the first and most important to me is about working only with your ideal clients.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to do that, you've got to create a qualifier to filter the ones who aren't going to be so ideal out. It's kind of like, I look at business as a house of business. So I look at your qualifier as a gate at the front door. And the only people who get past the gate are your ideal clients because they have the code. Now, the code means that they represent that ideal combination of education, experience, expertise, talent, personality, and commitment. Right. Commitment is so darn important.
Right.
And it doesn't matter so much, to me anyway, whether they're new in business or whether they've been in for 5 years, 10 years. What matters to me is their commitment to taking new and right action to change what they don't like about where they are and make improvement. And that new and right action has to be aligned with who they are at their core. The fun part for me is that I have such an enormous inventory of strategies and tools and techniques and ways and means of doing things that when a client looks at me and says, that doesn't resonate with me, Melissa, that doesn't feel like it's something I'm going to like to, I'm like, but no problem. Let's re-explore. Here's a couple of other ideas. How do these feel? Mm-hmm. Because it really isn't about me force-fitting anything. It's about me instead showing them that buffet of right fits, and they pick the absolute one they want to dive into so that they have a delicious experience with it and tasty returns at the bottom line.
Right. Yeah, I was just speaking with Lauren Solomon, and she was talking about the same thing and about how important it is to reevaluate really where you are at every time, because your ideal client may shift, your qualifiers may shift, and that's why staying centered, especially in your business with what your goals are, your core, is really important, because it's not a one-time decision.
No, it's your business is growing just as you're growing. Mm-hmm. It's shifting, it's morphing, and keys are to keep that vision shifting and changing, and to stay on top of as often as you're up leveling, even if you're not realizing you're up leveling. Right. Because there'd be nothing sadder than going backwards instead of forwards.
Right. And I love the idea that you're saying it's not a cookie cutter approach. I get kind of tired of that, because I'm always meeting and introducing and interviewing people that have done something completely bizarre that really worked great for them. Yeah. And then thinking, well, wow, that was a great idea. Yeah. I'm glad you didn't follow whatever the approach is. Being an artist, I do everything on an organic basis on the inside. I'm sure there's probably a system, but I've been doing it so long, since I was a kid, that to me it's like I pay attention and I kind of hear a yes or no. No, do this, do that, and it always turns out great. But in business, I have spent decades trying to follow somebody's plan. And guess what? It never works for me. Never. And I always end up feeling like I'm in prison. Like I might as well just have a job if I'm doing this stuff. And finally, it hit me. It's like, Jan, do what you do best. Create. Yeah. That. God kind of came right into your head as a little kid and said, create stuff. Yeah. You don't need to really fight that. And since then, I've found so many more people supporting that idea that, it's about following that part of you inside. And I've also found that as I study other people that are very successful, like you, I'm hearing the same story. That you didn't limit your career. When it wasn't working, you just went to the next one. And you went to the next one, and you may have another one. It's about continuing to grow and learn. and not being afraid that it's not going to work because you are changing. And I love that.
Well, I think the key is you're going to be afraid no matter what. We all go through that.
That's true.
To feel the fear and do it anyway. It's just fear is an opportunity to keep going. Fear is kind of a nudge to, okay, if you're scared of it, go towards it. Don't come away from it. And there's a wonderful definition of fear, and I cannot remember right now who shared this, but it was one of my favorites. It said, actually, it's a definition of excitement, because it said, excitement is fear with breath.
Wow.
So how cool to get beyond the fear when you start to breathe and all of a sudden you're excited instead of afraid. I love that.
Oh, that is, oh man, cattle prod in my brain. I love that. Oh, that's good. Now I think I need to breathe. Okay. So what do you do when you fall out of love with your business? I'm sure there's more than one person wondering about this one.
Yeah, that's really when you've got to go back to basics, re-examine your big vision. Where are you now? What have you achieved? Definitely create an inventory of your accomplishments, because usually you're in a space where you're feeling like, gee, you haven't gotten much done, and you've probably gotten a lot more done than you realize. And, collect testimonials from clients, read those through, and then go, okay, what do I want now? Because you really go back to that place of what do I want? And what do I still love to do? What am I bored to tears with? What do I not want to do anymore? And how can I reinvent? How can I reinvigorate? You don't have to throw it all out.
Right.
There's plenty of ways that you can take a business that you've had for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, or 2 years, and completely turn around how you're doing it to achieve new impact, bigger impact, and build the business in a way that's really going to serve and support your life instead of sacrificing to it.
Right.
Because I think that's what happens. We get a bit on a treadmill. We get used to doing the same activities, and we do get bored. Because I do believe that the most entrepreneurs at their core are creative. And we're easily bored. I know I have ADHD cubed.
Yeah. I can't even, I tell you, I've tried I was telling someone the other day, all I really want to do is have a business where I get to have ideas and get them started. I don't like any of the other process much after that. There's a few things I like. I like painting a lot, which is why I still do murals and faux finishes, because I like the act of painting. I like to create something, but I also like to have it be done in a relatively short period of time, or I get bored. I would never be one of those people who would love painting the Sistine Chapel and take 10 years. I would be bored out of my mind. And this is a strength. It's really funny. When I said this to a person, she goes, wow, that sounds like a really incredible strength. And here I've spent like 40 years calling it my biggest liability.
Oh, yeah. And I work with clients in a place where we make their strengths so great that their weaknesses become irrelevant.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, you never want to cater to weaknesses.
Yeah.
Delegate them, farm them out, or just make them disappear. There's always somebody who can counterbalance and step into the places that you're not going to be strong at. But to spend your time focusing on how to get better at your weaknesses is going to diminish your strengths.
Yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of that. You always want to be improving yourself, but I agree. You don't want to base your business on that. And that's what I started to understand, that here I had taken what had generally largely been a real asset to me personally. And somewhere along the line, a long time ago, someone told me that was really just, it was okay in personal life, just not in business. And it was so funny. All it took was one person just saying it, and I guess I needed to hear it. And I thought, wow, I really labeled that one wrong.
Well, we've all had bad advice. I actually have considered more than once writing a book of the bad advice I've gotten. The reality is it's our choice to take it, and we usually take it where we're in a place of feeling insecure, that we don't trust ourselves, we're hiding, we're not visible. Even
Right.
though we feel like we're visible, we're really hiding in plain sight. And that's when you have to be most careful. That's when you really want to have a couple of trusted advisors that have your best interests at heart and aren't simply advising based on their own history.
That's a good point. And so this is the next question. When you're looking for advisors like that, what are some of the things you look for? How do you know when you've got one of those people in your life?
I look for somebody whose message really resonates with me. I'm usually on their in their email community, Facebook. I check out their events.
Mm-hmm.
I really happen to love, and I've got one of these coming up, an intensive,
Right.
which is a little 2.5 day. It's a low-cost way to really immerse yourself in that person and find out if you're a fit for a bigger investment and a really big relationship going forward. Because it's hard to tell just based on virtual teleseminars and email strings. You've got to go beyond that. You've got to get to that place where you really can connect with that person.
Right.
And find out over 2.5 days, wow, is this somebody I'm excited about the next day?
Yeah.
Because, well, if you're not, it's a really big sign.
Yeah.
If you're feeling like, breakthrough, yeah, that's a cool place to be. And if you have any hesitation, don't base it on investment. Terrible way to do it.
Huh. Okay.
I have never had the high level investments for the coaches I've hired sitting in a bank somewhere. Never. And I've still done it because I knew that the growth I would experience would be worth 10 times their fee, and that I would create that flow while working together.
Gotcha.
I think the idea, and it kills me when I talk with potential clients, the idea that I can't afford it. And I'm like, you can't afford not to do this. It's cost of inaction. And that's an Alex Mendosian term that I absolutely love, because it's not about your ROI. We all know about return on investment. It's about what is inaction costing you.
Right.
And that's what you've really got to look at. So getting out of that stuck and stalled place, because the more stuck and stalled you are, the more you're hiding.
Yeah. And that's really interesting. The whole idea that it's back to that level of success and what we're defining as success, because there's not only just business stuck, there's personal stuck. And what most people, and why I love World Love Week, what I hear so many people talking about is that it's a combination. You're not a business and a person. For most entrepreneurs, you're both.
Yeah.
And it's okay to take care of both.
Oh yeah, you must. You absolutely must. But ideally, again, you're building your business, you're designing your business in a way that inspires and informs and fuels and feeds, serves and supports the whole of your life and delivers that big dream. It doesn't require you to sacrifice your life to it or swallow you whole, as I like to say. It really is about that. It's not, I don't look at life and work as balance. I look at them as fusion. There's two pieces coming together here, and you've got to love both pieces. It's not to say that you don't turn off one piece to serve the other.
Right.
And that works both sides. I mean, because you've got to turn off a part of your personal life to serve your business fully, and turn off a large chunk of your business life to serve your personal life fully. Absolutely. You got to have some boundaries in there.
Exactly.
But you are one whole, complete 360-degree person. You're not split into like half of you is over here on LinkedIn and the other half of you is over here on Facebook. Bring those two halves together to become that whole 360 degrees.
It's funny. Lauren Solomon said this yesterday. She goes, I don't believe in balance. I believe you can have it all, but maybe not all at one time. And I thought, what a great way to look at it. She's like, there's going to be times you're overwhelmed. There's going to be times you're bored. There's going to be times where everything's exciting and great. That's life. The deal is to not get stuck in any one of those and to have the overall picture be something that's really building you and sharing that message or that desire that you had to put out in the world. And I thought, how beautiful, because, you know, many people get really trapped in this idea that it's like, if you have a really successful business, you're happy every single day and nothing goes wrong. No, that's not true. What it means is that you don't get stuck in one place. When things go bad, you get through it. You don't build that as part of your business. And, you know, it's really interesting because, especially now with technology, there's just a lot of hiccups with stuff. And most entrepreneurs aren't technical. But that doesn't mean that that has to be the bane of your existence. That's what it's like to get other people to help you with the things that you aren't good at. And one of those things I've seen the most is that when you try to do it all, that means all of your tasks, it's nearly impossible to stay in that centered place. Because there's just too much stuff out there in the world. The skill set, the knowledge base, the level of stuff that people have to do in business these days is so diverse that it's impossible not to hit something that's just not going to be your area. And there's kind of almost this mythology that really successful solopreneurs can do it all and do it well. And that the idea of getting help or outsourcing or letting go of some of it is somehow diminishes your level of success, when really everyone keeps saying the same thing. Get it off your plate and do what you do best.
Well, I think the myth is the word solopreneur, and I think it's a shame that I actually use the word, but there's no such thing really as a solopreneur, because nobody gets there by themselves, and if they do, they're probably wrung out, strung out, stressed out, and overwhelmed by the time they make it.
Yeah.
I actually believe you can have it all at once when you know what your it is. The misnomer is that too many people look at it as something societal rather than defining it for themselves. Because usually what you define for yourself is entirely attainable.
Huh. Wow, that's interesting. So give me an example of that. I love that.
Well, for example, a lot of people, you know, when they say you can have it all, they think of the big house, or actually multiple big houses and staff and servants and a jet and this. You know, the reality is most people aren't interested in that. They really aren't. I've talked with so many clients who have no desire for something like that. One of them said, oh, you know, I don't want that. I want a farm. Just one small farm, maybe 15 acres, vegetable garden, someplace where I'm in touch with nature and animals every day, and it's relaxed and it's away from the city. You know, another one wants a vacation place, but it's small. It's not a big mansion or anything like that, because they understand the disconnectedness that comes with that. And I learned that firsthand doing interior design, because I would see my clients move from 2,000, 3,000 square feet into 10,000 suddenly. Mm-hmm. And I would watch the family connectivity disappear.
Well, and I work for, same thing in my decorative painting, I work for all levels of people economically, from multi-millionaires to regular, you know, two working people businesses. And what I have found is, one, the money doesn't make them any more or less happy. Two, the reason that they're happy and fulfilled is a choice they're making. And the other thing is that I really found this to be true. When you have all that stuff, it's way more stuff to manage. I had a woman, probably the most wealthy clients I've ever worked for. She's like, we downsized.
Yep.
We got rid of all this stuff. She goes, I got so tired of spending 6 or 7 hours a day managing stuff. She goes, my kids are grown. I did that job. I don't want to do it about a house or a thing. They want to do it because her husband is in the medical field and he's groundbreaking, and they travel and do a lot of stuff. She goes, that's what we want to do. If I'm going to spend my time doing something, I want to spend it with my grandkids. I want to be able to go to these trips and help other people in other countries. I don't want to be managing my money or my houses or my things.
Yeah, and in my case, I'm one of these that wants to have multiple homes, but very small multiple homes, because I don't have a desire to manage large properties.
Yeah.
It's just too much work.
It just made me understand it was the choice.
Yeah.
She had the choice, and she knew what they were. Other people love that. Other people love being able to go from home to home to home. They like having all that outsourced. And I don't have a judgment on it. I think you put your finger right on it. It's, what do I want to spend my time?
Yeah.
And I agree. The solopreneur thing is kind of crazy. Really, that was a make-believe idea, because there's never been any good business that's been like that ever, I think, in the history of commerce. You know, where one person was just able to do it all and become, you know, what we consider successful.
You can't. And the clients that come to me that are in that place, we look at where we're going to hire team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they'll be part-timers. That's totally fine. But you've got to offload tasks that are either non-essential or are essential, but they're not your strength.
Yeah.
You know,
it's the draining force. That's what I see. It's like, especially with technology, because it makes so much possible. But let me tell you, if you don't know how to do it, it's such an energy drain.
Yes, it can be. It definitely can be.
And a stopping point for really no good reason, because there's other people that know how to do it. You know, one of the things I have been most struck by having this conversation with you is how you have been able to maintain your level of passion and excitement about helping other people. Is this something just natural in you, or do you do something to really, keep that going?
It's actually inherent. The thing for me is my overarching kind of thrill in life is to see you living and working in a space where you are lit up at your core. You are tuned in, turned on, engaged, and connected. And the more people that I can work with to make sure that happens, that then spreads. That has a wonderful replicable effect, because then the people they touch, it does that with them. And the people they touch, it does that with them. It's that old Fabergé from the 80s commercial. But that's where I really get lit up. And it's funny because I wind up doing this at cocktail parties. I do this over dinners. I do this in networking events. I do this standing in line at the grocery store. Coaching and consulting are not what I do. They're who I am.
Right.
It really is that innate. And the only frustration is when I'm, work with somebody who's not an ideal fit, and they're not truly committed, and they're not clear on what they want. They're just like, well, I'm not sure,
Yeah,
I work with wafflers.
Yeah. I love teaching. I love teaching almost anything. I come from a family of teachers. I'm like that. I'll be like in the grocery store, whatever. Don't even get me in Home Depot, because I know how to do everything. It's just how I am. I build, make just about anything I can do. I was with a friend of mine, and she was just like, I'll be in the car. She's like, I'm not even talking to you. It was like, I'll be in the car when you're done helping the next 5 people figure out how to do blah, blah, blah. Because I love connecting with people. It took me a long time to realize that that was something I really enjoyed, that it was like, I don't know how to say this, that was actually something you could enjoy. It's like, it was like a it was almost like, well, that's not good enough to be something that you would want to do. And once again, someone else had to point out, well, what do you think journalism is? And what do you think, all these other people, that's what they're doing, is connecting with other people, authors, right? I mean, and then it really opened up the world for me, because I understood that really that's pretty much what we all want, is to connect and to be seen and to share our message. And to me, I love entrepreneurs because they come from a place, a deep core of wanting to be seen and to see others and help them. And, the world just needs more of that. It's one reason I wanted to be involved in the World Love Week, because that connection to me with entrepreneurship and really wanting to share a deep soul message is so connected. I'm really happy to hear you talk about it in such a clear and business-like way, but without taking out the love, but really infusing it in there for your clients.
You can't have a successful business without loving your business and without loving your clients. Richard Branson is a perfect case in point. Look at what he's created, and he is so clearly in love with his businesses and in love with the people he's in contact with.
Oh, that's true.
Warren Buffett is the same way.
Yeah.
You've got to be loving what you're doing and what you're creating and what you're building and the difference that you're making, and love yourself at the same time in it. If you're not coming through enough in your business, it's because you're not loving you enough.
Oh, I'm
put you back in the biz.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The talk I did was called Love Yourself to Success, because I firmly believe that when people are procrastinating or stuck, it generally has to do with how they feel about themselves and not the task. I just feel so privileged to be a part of this, so I get to talk with real movers and shakers like you. It's been so enlightening to me to hear the different perspectives, and also to see that there are so many people that are really committed to making the world better by helping the people out there in the world. I loved your idea that you just help one person, and you just watch it spread and spread and spread.
It's a lot of fun. It definitely is. And no end to the level of people I can help and the global difference I can make. That's the best part.
Absolutely. And so we want to let people know exactly how to find you.
The best thing to do is to go to turnonsuccess.com. There are actually a very short series of free videos there. There is a class that I would encourage you to listen into, and take action based on what you hear. Take action in your own business, or you can certainly reach out to me on the social networks. I'm extremely easy to find.
Yep.
Almost everything is Melissa Galt or Prospering by Design. And I look forward to being able to support you in achieving what it is you most want.
If you get a chance, definitely join us for the rest of the speakers at World Love Week, because we've got an amazing lineup, and you're definitely going to want to go to Turn On Success and get this series, because it's amazing. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a thrill for me, and I look forward to seeing all the new things that you're going to be doing.
Thanks, Jan. I've truly enjoyed it. You are a terrific interviewer.
Thank you.